Hello everyone, welcome to this, the first of my YouTube demonstrations. So don't expect miracles, we'll see what happens. I thought I'd start us off today by doing a little bit of a chiaroscuro technique, so that's the Italian for light and dark. It's going to be an oil painting, so I'll show you my colours shortly. All you need to do for this is to prepare yourself an image, or if you can set something up in your own home studios, whatever, if you get someone to sit for you, just put something dark up in the background, put a lamp on, just so you get that really strong lighting effect. So with my model here, I've done exactly that. Obviously I'm working from a photo just for convenience, and you can have the face straight on, do whatever you want. Look at artists like Rembrandt, Caravaggio, they use this technique all the time. So as I said, it's going to be an oil painting, so here's my slightly tired old palette. So the colours I've got, French ultramarine, raw umber, yellow ochre, or mucky yellow as I like to call it, cadmium red, cadmium yellow pale. I like the paler tint for the cadmiums. I find cadmium yellow a little bit too orangey, but it is still a good colour, and just bog standard titanium white. Brushes, I've got a number one, just a thin round brush, a number 4 short flat, and a number 6 short flat. I tend to like the flat brushes. You can get good chiseled kind of paint effects and things like that when you use it really thick. So that's it. If I need to, I've got a nice little thin brush for doing any detail, but I don't think I'm going to do too much of that today. So to start us off then, put these down, and I'm just using a medium called Sansador. With oil paint, I always feel there's enough oil in the paint itself, but if you want to thin your paint with oil and just use terps to wash your brushes, you do that. I will start off by saying something that I'm always going to say in these demos, is that this is one way of doing it, it's not the way. So to prepare, I've got my image, I've just got a piece of oil painting paper, and I've prepared that with a wash of sort of burnt sienna, any sort of like reddish brown kind of tone. And this is what Rembrandt would have done. Sorry, that was me then. Hello. This is what Rembrandt would have done. So a nice sort of browny background, just to kill off that white, so you're not working on something, and it's a little bit closer to my palette colour as well, so that when I'm mixing paint, the paint that I can already see what kind of colour I'm going to get. So to start us off, I'm going to dip my brush. I always have a rag attached to my apron, just so I can take the paint off a little bit, and I'm just going to mix a black kind of tone, and the way I do this, I just use blue and some raw umber, and it gives me as convincing a black as I'm going to need. The reason I don't use a pre-mixed black is because I can't do as much with it. With this I can add some red and I can turn it purpley, and it won't flatten off. I find when I use black it deadens the colours. You may not find that. Again, this is just me. But I do like to use blue and raw umber, because if I add white to this, I can turn it a little bit grey. It makes it a little bit more flexible than just using a pre-mixed black. You could use something like a Payne's grey. It's a little bit bluer, but again, totally up to you. So with any kind of portraiture, and the great thing about starting with paint and not doing a pre-drawing is if I go wrong, I'm already using paint. I can move it around, I can change it. So I'm just going to get the general position and just sketching quite lightly, not worrying too much, just looking at the angle of the face, but still starting off with a little bit of an egg shape. If your eggs look like this when you buy them in the supermarket, I advise you to take them back. There's probably something wrong with them. And then we can split that into half there, so that's going to be the eye line, and then half again, that's going to be the nose, and then usually split this bottom section into thirds. I think we need a little bit more chin. But again, we're just feeling his way around, you know, we're not being too picky, too accurate or anything like that. It's a very forgiving process, this, because of the dark background. You don't have to worry about lots of detail and getting everything absolutely spot on straight away. The hair is going to go roughly around here. I will make strange noises, I do apologise. There's no backing track either, so I'll just have to hum every now and again. So we need a little bit more paint. So again, just this dark colour. I may have to run off and get more colour. See, that's something that I would have realised if I'd done this before. But hey, this is the guinea pig session, you know, we're working things out as we go along. Okay, then let's slam some colour on. And now I'm still looking at this here. This is quite dark. This area where the hair comes down. We've already got this area here underneath. The eyebrow is quite dark. I'm going to take that in even more. So again, you're not committing yourself too soon. You're just kind of working it out as you go along. So if I think the eyebrow's there and it's coming down at an angle for the other eyebrow around here. But if I look at these shadows, they're much brighter. Well, not brighter, but the shadows, but they're not as dark as the background. So what I can do is add a little bit of blue to this colour and just a little bit of white. Not a lot, just a bit. Just to lighten this shadow up. Just to differentiate it from the background. So it's still a shadow colour, still a nice dark colour, but it's not as dark as the background. So more black, just mix another black colour, just to kind of get the eyebrows, the really black areas. If you remember, I added some white just to make this shadowy area that little bit lighter. So that comes in handy because I can now just redraw and block in the eyebrows. Can't really see the eyebrows very well because of the hair. And the eyes, which are downcast, so can't really see any details. So I'm just blocking in the shape of the eyes, ready for later. Because it's when we add all the other tones, and when you add the lights, the lighter colours, I promise you it's like magic. And that's the thing that's going to make you want to do it. At the minute, just feels a little bit like work. Right, so let's put some colour. Let's brighten things up a little bit. So I'm going to my number 4 flat brush. Dip it in the terps just to get it going. And I'm going to mix. Now, when you add a lighter colour to this, it's going to look really light because of that dark reddy background. Right, so number 4 brush, a little bit of white. There's a bit of muck in that, but we don't have to worry too much. A little bit of white. I'm using the yellow ochre because I think the cadmium yellow, although it will come into play soon, it's probably a little bit too bright at this stage. I just want to keep things quite subtle. And you can use, like, because this is made of blue and brown, I can use some of that and just mucky this colour up. And when you use a red, start off with a little bit, because the red is a bit of a bully. It wants to be star of the show, and it will overtake all the other colours on your palette. The first shadow I'm going to put in, the first highlight, is just at this side. And it's going to pick up some of these colours, but I'm not going to panic, even if it goes a little bit green. There's a highlight there. So put that on, it'll remind me for later. Now, that is the darker highlight, so I'm just going to add a little bit more white to the colour I've just mixed. A little bit more red. But again, it's not a bright flesh colour, because we want to put the highlights on after. But this is what we're going to use now to hopefully, fingers crossed, bring the character out. This is the fun bit. Now I'm going to have to paint over this dark line that I put in earlier, but with enough paint in your brush, should be enough there to bully this black tone out of the way. But if it picks up some of the black tone, again, don't worry, you're making a painting, not a photograph. Let it be a painting. Yeah, so something's happening. If I want to, I can add a little bit more white and a little bit more red for the lip, the bottom lip. You can see that highlight just here, so I can drag that across. That's the first time I've changed the colour in a while. Mouth is probably too big at the minute. I just want to extend this down slightly. Get a bit more accuracy here. So this is where I am starting to think, right, where are the major mistakes? What are the things that need changing? I know there's a few. I can put the shadows back in. So the shadows under the nose are a little bit more pinky purpley. So into a puddle of muck up here, add a bit of red. And again, because that's made mostly of blue and a bit of raw umber, I can add some red and it doesn't look muddy. It's a nice, rich kind of crimsony colour. And I can go in under the nose and just clarify that shadow. A bit better. I can do the same thing on here. So when you've got a reddy tone, if you bring it next to this white that you put on, you can allow it to mix together and it begins to soften all the other shadows that you've got on there. You just got to do it lightly, don't scrub it too hard. So still lots of adjusting to do. One thing I will do with my other brush that's got the lighter colours on, it's going to add a little bit more yellow ochre and sketching the highlights in the hair. So there are a few areas, and I said that red colour comes in quite handy because obviously our model here does have red hair, so use it to your advantage. going to go back into the flesh tones that I mixed earlier. I'm going to sort out, there's me, let me lean back a little bit, you know what I mean, this, the highlights on that here. Establish where it is. So we've got a darker kind of purpley colour. Oops, so I've just added some red and white to his dark area. And I'm just going to sketch in . There we go. I got that completely in the wrong place, didn't I? But I've seen it, I'm sorting it out. I'm not panicking, go away, there you go. So I'm going to mix, we use the red, the brown, just to mix a darker red, just for behind the ear. This needs to be extended a little bit. Right, so that's drawn in now, that's there. So, and she's looking reasonably human, but everything's still a little bit contrasting. So too much light, too much dark. Let's actually make her look a bit more human. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? I'm sure she'd appreciate that. So this is where I can start painting a little bit more. So as I'm looking at this left eye as a way of looking at it, some of the highlights, you know, this sounds silly, the highlights are quite dark, the highlights are in shadow. There are details in the shadows, is probably the best way I can describe it. So, but because I can't get any darker than what I've done, I'm just going to lighten up above the eyes in that eyelid. So you're just clarifying what's already there, basically. We've actually got, if you take the paint out of your brush and dip into another lighter colour, it will usually work if you've got enough colour on. Nice little highlight just here. These all help. There we go, just there. So the eye is a little bit more prominent now. I'm just going to wash this out. Go to my brush. So all we're doing now is softening the shadows. We're softening them extremes. You start with the lightest and the darkest kind of areas, and then you soften them. So I'm starting in the shadowy areas, so nice bit of red, quite a bit of red actually. We don't have to be shy with the red at this stage. A bit more. Because whatever colour I put on, it's going to mix with what's already there. So because the paint's wet, we're painting this alla prima, so in one sitting. You can quickly achieve what Rembrandt and Caravaggio would have achieved by doing glazes and sort of adding thin layers of paint over thick layers of paint that are dried. You know, you get some really amazing effects doing that. But we don't have the time. We're doing lightning speed painting here. Like I say, you don't have to do that. So there's another highlight up here that I've missed, just around the side of the cheek. So again, I'm going to have a few goes at that to bully that black colour out of the way. Don't want this too bright though. That's okay. So back in with a bit of red. So we've got nice pinky tones. And if you need to, you know, like here for example, it's a nice, there's a much lighter highlight under the eye. I could start to do that. So as long as you've got enough colour on your brush. Now what I'm going to do is add some blue. So we've got some nice, really nice light kind of blue tones. So these are going to contrast with all these reds. So above the eye here. It's picking up some of that colour that's already on, but that's fine. I want that to happen. Just making that a bit bluer. Around the eye at this side. I can make that quite a lot bluer. That bit purplier actually. Again, it stops it being too dark. We established where the shadows were, so now we need to make them work for us, make it work for the painting. So this is where I feel more like I'm painting, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Because I've done the drawing, I've done all the working out. Now I can enjoy developing the image, trying to bring out the character. Just noticing these little bits. So for example, the shadow on a cheek is a bit pinkier. So again, I'm going to have to mix a better colour, and it's going to look a bit like a dog's dinner to start off with, because I've not done anything around here yet. Let's make that a bit redder. But we're gradually getting rid of these extremes. And softening all these shadows. And it's really good fun actually. This is the nice bit. You've done the hard work. Shadow around the nose. Again. Just stops that being. Because we've got to put the really bright highlights on soon. They're going to make all the difference. For the minute, I'm just kind of looking at the details in the shadows. We need to establish where the philtrum is. It's the bit under your nose. I learnt that off an advert, of all things. That's better. She's starting to emerge from the fog. Top lip, bit more purpley. Certainly not as dark as I've got it at the minute, but them dark colours I have got on there, really handy. But just be gentle. Be as careful as you can. This is when I normally get a wobbly hand. Same on the lower lip, but with the lower lip it's normally that little bit brighter, so I'm just using a slightly lighter colour. I want to close the mouth up a little bit more. Go back to the darker red. And then there's more of a purpley colour right in the corner of the mouth, around here, which takes us into these shadows. There we go. Right, so this highlight I did earlier is not making much sense anymore. but it was useful for establishing. That needs to be a bit darker. Useful for establishing the shape of the mouth and where the highlights were going to go. But now I need to adjust. So I'm taking the colour out of my brush, and I'm mixing just blue and red, mixing a darker purple into some of the black that I used earlier, because I need to just adjust this shadow under the lip and make this a little bit thinner. So again, you know, if you make these little mistakes, they're not mistakes, you're just learning. And you'll learn more from things like this than anything that you do right straight away. So don't fear your mistakes, just let them happen. So all I need to do now, I'll just wash my brush, mix another bright pink, so white, bit of red, and I'll leave that quite bright, and then I can re-establish the highlight on the bottom lip in the correct place this time. I was nearly right. There we go. Let's just get that shape. So now I've gone too far with that, so I need to redo the shadow. Mouths, people, mouths are quite tricky. Just adjust as you go along. There we go. I might put another highlight on that later, but I'll leave it for now. So looking at the chin, mixing more of a bluey, purpley colour. Again, I don't want the shadow to be too green. So and you can just scumble that into that flesh tone that was on earlier. And you can even take it into the neck. So let's get a bigger brush now. Keep using this thin one. Let's get back to the number 4. Wash that out. Wash. I'll put a bit more blue into this from the neck and a bit of white, because again we've got this dark colour on here. I can afford a bit more blue actually. And I really like it when you get contrasting colours like that. So obviously when we put get the hair in a bit better shortly, these blues are going to really contrast well. Not a short demo this. I must learn to paint quicker, so I'm learning as well. Here's a fun thing to do. Shall I do that now or shall I wait? No, I don't want to do it now because I've earned a treat. So I'm just getting a thin brush, just any old thin brush will do. It's one that I'd normally use for watercolour. And I'm going to make this bit of white into this orangey colour that I had earlier, because we've got some eyelashes to do. We can't actually see the details in the eye, but we have got some eyelashes to put in. Now we don't want to try and do every single one, but the light is catching them. So all you need to do is do a few and dip back in, because it's going to pick up that black. And when you do eyelashes, don't try and do them too uniform. Yeah, she's starting to look a bit more human now. She's still got a dodgy ear. You can tell that ear's been bothering me all the way through. There's always something that don't want to play. So let's sort it out. Get some red. Just mixing a deeper pink kind of colour. We'll get this ear looking a bit more like it belongs. But a lot of it is in shadow, so we do need to acknowledge that. So the inner ear, that's hard to say, inner ear is going to help a lot. So I've got some of the black colour with a little bit of red, so blue, brown, bit of red, so you've got a nice dark tone. Getting that inner ear shape. And then the rest of it is just a really deep red inside the ear. All sorts of shadows, and so we essentially had kind of the right shape, we just didn't quite have the right colours. But we're getting there now. There we go. Same at this side, little highlight, just a lighter pink. Because we've actually got to put the hair in, and that's going to cover part of the ear, and that's going to help as well. Push the ear back into the hair a little bit more. So around here, the colour needs clarifying, sorry, the shape needs clarifying. So I'm mixing another black. So just adjust as you go along. That's going to come in like that. And then you can use the highlights, these pinky highlights, sort out this earlobe. And then the last thing to do on this would be to put the main highlights in, because that's going to help a lot. And sometimes the things that have been giving you bother end up being your favourite bit, because you've overcome a problem. Da, 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 da. So now into this pink colour, a bit more white, a little bit of the cadmium yellow, so just to warm it up. And we'll one highlight and a highlight on the inside, put that in, and another highlight coming down. Essentially the rest of that, so that all looks a bit exposed and kind of raw at the minute, but once we put the hair on, the little wisps of hair, that's going to help sort that out. Right, so let's have a look at her. She's not far off now. I think, so now I'm just thinking, looking at the face, and I'm thinking, right, what do I need to do? There's a few more details around the eye that I can put in. And really, I'm just going to go to the lighter colours now, the lightest colours on the face. That'll just bring all that together. One last little bit just on the top lip, just the shape of this top lip as it goes into the shadow. It's just a bit of red, sorry, a bit of blue. It's just hiding. Just tuck it in. There you go. That's a bit happier. You could go on forever doing this. Just going to sort out the shape of the neck on this side. Sorry, the cheek. Just bring that together a bit more. I'll leave the hair till last because I don't want to do too much on that. I like the hair to be quite flowing. Right, so now I'm mixing. Let's find a corner. There we go. Much lighter colours. So I'm going to go to the cadmium red and a little bit of the cadmium yellow. A good blob of white. There we go. Probably can't see that. That probably just looks like white. But this is going to create more contrast. So we've got the highlight on the nose. Going down. And we can put some even lighter ones on after, but for the time being, you can take these up into your shadows as well, just to kind of mix them in. If that dark colour starts overtaking, go back in with your lighter colour. It'll go away eventually. So I'm just going to keep hammering away at this. I'm going to use a flat brush as well. I'll just wash this out. We're nearly there. Let's try and do this in an hour. In fact, it nearly is an hour. Let's going to try and do it in an hour and 10 minutes. And the bristles are falling out. That just means I've been industrious, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. So sometimes I hold my brush this way as well. It looks a bit childish, but if it works, it works. Let's pull that across a little bit. So these highlights are the thing that really bring it all together. So we've got a bit more contrast at above the top lip, a little bit more down here, and you can just mix, you know, as on the canvas itself. And there's a few skin tones that I need to clarify as well around the cheek. One, I'm going to do that in a second, but for the time being I'm just focusing on, I'm going to add a little bit more red. It gets a bit pinkier around the chin. I hope you're not bored yet. I always think, oh, this, you always say, oh, this is going to be a quick demo, but then it ends up taking quite a while. But you know, for me, this is lightning speed. I normally take ages on a painting. A bit of that there, a bit more. Oh, the weather's getting a bit tempestuous. I think we're okay around the ear. I'll add a little bit more red, just to give us a bit more rosy cheeks. A bit more red, a bit more blue. Colour looks a little bit too yellowy. And you know, I can use that and just thin this shadow down a little bit. That's a bit sloppy there. There we go. Add a bit more white. Bring that back. A bit more white still. Just going to try and be brave with it. Let's go really white, you know, so hardly any pigment. Just put some highlights on the nose. So this is in pasto now. You're really using the paint quite thickly. A little bit more cadmium yellow just to brighten it up. Nice bit of contrast with those cooler colours. So that, because the light's really picking up on this nose. So we want to put that in. We don't want to be shy with that. So you kind of see that's looking a bit more like our model. And I'm being picky now, you know, I'm starting to fiddle, you know, and, oh, I'm going to put this here and that there because, you know, because I'm picky. Painters are picky, of course we are. A little bit more red into that. Sorry, red, blue. Hey, pick your colours, Richard. Oh, what's more? That was silly, wasn't it? Silly, Richard. Good, I've made a mistake. I'll show you how to correct it. I got too excited and I put the wrong colour in. Anyway, it's there now. So, brush, clean brush, just calm it down. Calm down. Getting giddy because it's nearly done. But let's bring that out a little bit. Let's get rid of that line. Soften that up. That's better. Let's use a highlight instead. Your image could be totally different to this, but your image will be. So as long as you've got them nice contrasts, you can't go wrong. A little bit of few little details in the jumper. Bring them in again. I'm not going to be too detailed with that. But all these little things just help. They help make it look like a painting. So kind of in around the collar. Yeah. So right, let's do the hair then. So this could be make or break time. So to start off with, I want to mix a darker tone. So raw umber, a little bit of red. Using my number 1 brush. I'm just looking at the bits of hair that are coming over her ears now. I want to put them in with a darker colour first, then I'll put a highlight on afterwards. But it's going to start to push the ear back, as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to do. Could decide to use a much thinner brush, I may still do that. But this will be the thing, hopefully. So by putting the darker colours on, we're creating a platform for the highlights, in a nutshell. So into a lighter orange, shall we say, like a ginger colour, and we can start to bring this over the eye. Don't worry if it picks up some of that black, just dip back in. Remember, hair is flowing. I'll add a bit more red to that. That's nice. You know, and the fact that it's picking up that black's not a bad thing, because it looks like strands of hair. So use it, you know, use it to your advantage too. It's not always a bad thing. So So remember them that I did earlier? They're a bit brighter as they come through. You can see. I mean, the hair on the right hand side does recede into the shadows, but you know, you want to suggest the flow of it going over the shoulder. Just there. Same colour, I've not changed colour. Just got this nice strong reddy gingery colour. But again, we don't want to go too mad on the hair. Like get it in. So just mixing into that brown, making it slightly darker, because at the top you do have more of a shadowy kind of colour. So we'll get that in. So that's just raw umber, a bit of red. So if you think about the colours that we've used brown, black and pink, pinky white. You know, the actual colour palette for this picture is quite limited. So again, if you can get a good result with just a few colours, imagine what you can do when you switch the lights on properly. You get more colour in there. But this exercise can prepare the way for that kind of thing. That's a bit redder, it's picking up a bit too much of that dark colour, but it's not the end of the world. I'm just breaking up some of these shadows that I put in earlier. We are going to put more highlights on. So the hair is looking reasonable at the minute, but now into the white, big dollop into that colour we've just been using, this orangey colour. Good dollop of cadmium yellow, bit of red, more white. Don't overmix it. That's a good trick. Because you can end up getting the separate kind of colours in your brush, which again is quite useful. So this is not the main highlight, but again we're using that bit of yellow that just came out then. Lovely. That's the stuff you want. You want them things to happen. And I can use this colour. I'm just going to put a little bit more white in, just because it's picking up some of the colours that are underneath it. Because as we come down here, and this feels a bit scary, I'm not going to lie. You've got a nice light colour just above the eye, but again, it's going to give us contrast. Okay, a few little highlights just around the ear. Again, I could have got a thin brush and spent forever on them, but we haven't got forever. I've taken long enough as it is. And then let's mix a separate area. Find somewhere on your palette where you can do it. Yellow, white, just a really, really light colour. And you can put in a really light highlight just across that band. And again, don't be too uniform with it. Put it in different directions. And some of the red of the original colour is there, still showing through. Again, there's a reason for it. Use it to your advantage. Just as you would if you wanted some of the white canvas to come through, if you didn't put a ground on it. Drag that into some of this wet paint, just to mix it in a little bit. A few little highlights just where light's catching this side. Nice bit of contrast. A few stray little hairs just picking up the light. Again, this is painting, this is the fun bit, this is the bit you've worked towards. Ooh, there's a few over here, forgot these. I think we're about there. I got there in the end. Well done, Richard. Now, it's the first one of these that I've done. So I think that's going to be the best I can do this time. Any feedback to making these videos better? I'm sure they will get better. I can paint alright, but I'm not the world's greatest video maker. So what I'll do, I will just put my palette down and I'll move the camera just so you can see that a bit better. The light's a bit extreme, but that's it. Picture, picture. Have a go. It's good fun. Follow them steps. Any questions, just put them in the comments. And please subscribe and share. And again, you can be brutally honest about how I can make these things better. You might just say, be a better artist, Richard. Then that'd help. Okay, thank you very much. Ta-ta. See you next time.